Howdy YouTube. Are you a Twitch or Mixer streamer trying to figure out how to go full time? In this episode, I'm going to show you how to do this. Yes, I'm going to give you some general advice, but I'm going to show you with a financial model how you can make your expenses and your income work to achieve your goal of being a full-time streamer. If it's your first time here, I'm a Twitch streamer. I do that at the address at the bottom of your screen, and I do that Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. So today's episode is the response to a question we received from one of our community members. And if you have a question of your own, you can submit that via Twitter using the link in the top left corner of your screen. This question came to us from a member named Phil, and we're going to get right into his question. So Phil asked, I work a full-time job and stream on Twitch as a hobby. I love the idea of being a full-time streamer, but I know that my current income from Twitch is nowhere near enough to live on. Can you offer any ideas on how I can position myself financially to be a full-time streamer? So this is a great question, and thanks again for submitting that, Phil. We're going to dive in and show you the model that we created, and we're going to kind of recreate this live here on this video so you can see how we built this model. But if you're interested in receiving this spreadsheet, I'm going to give you information at the end of the video that will show you how to get this spreadsheet free of charge. So stick tuned for that. So right here at the top of the model, we have some input data. I'm accounting for the opportunity for your channel to grow before and after you go full-time. So currently I'm assuming 5% growth as a part-time streamer and 10% growth as a full-time streamer. And these values are ones that you can change. And by the way, anybody who intends to get the spreadsheet later, the yellow fields denote areas that you can change, and anything that isn't yellow is meant to be left alone because it may contain formulas. So you can change these values later on. The second input point here is the number of months worth of expenses that we're going to have in cash reserves before we make the switch to go full-time. And this is going to be an important factor in your decision on when to go full-time with your streaming, because the reality is, at least from what I've seen, your income is not likely to give you immediate replacement of your full-time day job. So going into full-time streaming with a cash reserve is going to be important. I would advocate here no less than 6 months worth of cash reserves, but I'll leave it to you to make some adjustments here, play with this model, and see what it is you think would be appropriate. So that 25% includes withholding, Medicare, and Social Security. And for anybody that doesn't know how to figure this out, you can easily get this on your paycheck stub each time you get paid. And then I have here an adjustment, and I'm going to call this the what-if scenario. What if I reduce my monthly expenses by some set percentage? So we can play with this here. In fact, let's go ahead and put 10% in the entry here, so we can see how that works later on in the spreadsheet. Now these fields are results, and we're going to come back to these later. But ultimately, what we're going to see as we play with these input data points, we'll see how many months it will take before we can go full-time as a streamer. And then we'll see the month in which we run out of money. In this case, never, because we saved up 12 months worth of expenses. Okay, so here again, this is real data submitted by Phil. And Phil, by the way, is a made-up name, but Phil knows who he is. Phil provided me his gross annual income. That's about $55,000, which equates to about $4,500 in monthly gross income. And then he's given me all of his expenses here. These are his living costs, totaling about $460. He has taxes here, which, by the way, this refers back to this 25% right there. In both cases, I'm taking taxes from the Twitch wages and from your day job wages. And then he has vehicle expenses. He's got food costs, insurance costs, 401k, entertainment, and other things like that. By the way, Phil, you provided me a lot of detail on this $82. I just lumped it all in as one total amount. So his total expenses are about $3,600. So when we take his gross wages up here less the expenses, he has a monthly savings of about $900. Now, Phil, you made a comment in your email whereby you don't feel like you're saving anywhere close to that amount. What that suggests to me is that you don't know where all your money is going. So one thing I would recommend you do is pay closer attention to your monthly expenses. Maybe go through your bank statements and add up your categories and ensure that you've got everything accounted for. I would venture to guess it might be something simple like your eating out costs or entertainment expenses, going to movies, buying video games. I don't really know. But if you'll take some time to go through your bank account statement more carefully, I think you'll find where some of these missing expenses are. But for now, we're going to move forward with the idea that you're saving about $900 in monthly savings. And then next, Phil tells me he has an average monthly gross income on Twitch of about $55, and that's broken down here by the subs, the donations, and the cheers. And when you put values in these yellow boxes, I want to make sure you put your cut only. So as a specific example, when someone subs you on Twitch, Twitch receives about $6, and you would receive about half of that amount. So you want to put just your cut, not Twitch's cut, in these fields so you're getting accurate representation of how much you're getting paid. And then I added one more thing here, and if you will put in the total number of hours you work per month on your stream or stream-related activities, what this will allow you to do is it will allow you to see your effective pay rate based on those streaming activities. In this case, the $55 divided by 20 amounts to about a $2.77 hourly rate before taxes. So clearly this is a hobby at this point, and I know you aspire for it to be more than that, but right now you're earning about $2.77 each time you spend an hour working on streaming related activities. Okay, so how are we going to get to this goal of being a full-time streamer? With regard to the current situation, I want you to focus on increased earning opportunities. And yes, you can do that through Twitch, but I think more importantly, between now and when you go full-time, you need to focus on your career and do whatever you can to make more money in your day job, because that pays you far more than the $2.70 per hour. That might come in the form of working for promotions, working towards getting raises, maybe working overtime and all those kinds of things. So in short, stay focused on your day job. You can also work at aggressively continuing to reduce your expenses because this will help you to build your savings, but it will also allow you to be more lean and mean as you go into full-time streaming and sustain for longer if you have less expenses. So more income, less expenses, this amounts to increased savings, and you're going to have to continue to grind and hustle daily, not just in your day job, but in your side ambition of being a Twitch streamer. And then my final note here is to continue to educate constantly, particularly as it relates to your goal. I know as an example, you have a contact that is a partnered Twitch streamer. I would spend a lot of time talking to that person because they're going to give you some great insight, especially as it relates to things like some of these input values, what would be a reasonable number to plug in for monthly growth. Okay, so with the future situation, we're going to focus primarily on saving a cash reserve so we have plenty of cash on hand to sustain the transition from a better paying day job to a lesser paying Twitch job. And we're going to use conservative assumptions here, because if we inflate these numbers for growth as an example, all we're doing is getting a bogus result. And we're going to realize when we get through the real example that we don't have the growth we need. We're just going to shoot ourselves in the foot. So be very conservative with your assumptions as it relates to channel growth. And then continue to be aggressive with your expense control, because here again, that's ultimately what's going to allow you to get to your goal of being a full-time streamer quicker. And it's also going to create some longevity for you as you enter into being a full-time streamer. Okay, so next up, I want to talk about strategy. I encourage you to set goals and milestones, not just the one big goal of reaching full-time streaming, but micro goals within that bigger goal where you can tick these off your list and feel like you're making progress towards achieving your bigger goal. Because if you have just the one big goal and you haven't satisfied it over months and months, you're likely to get frustrated and give up. Okay, so let's dive into the model. So clearly the model is already built, but I'm going to show you how I created this model so you can see the moving parts that are in here. But as a reminder, I'm willing to share this spreadsheet with you. Just stay tuned toward the end of this video. I'm going to tell you how to get this spreadsheet from me free of charge. Okay, so starting off, we have the current situation. All of these are current situation. In fact, I need to copy this up here. So this whole section is for our current situation. And starting right off the bat, we have the monthly gross income from Twitch, which is just by going over here to this column here. And then we have growth in the Twitch monthly income, which is based upon this percentage here initially, and then eventually this percentage, okay? And I'm going to show you how I did that here in a minute, but I basically have a switch that we'll use to calculate that. And then I have my current day job gross monthly income, which you provided right here on the spreadsheet. And then I have a total gross monthly income, which is basically the sum of these three columns. My monthly expenses are totaled up here on the actual expenses at the bottom. This, by the way, includes our taxes, so you won't see me refer to net income here. So my savings is equal to the total income minus my expenses, which includes the tax, and I save a total of $953, which gives me a current cash balance after 1 month of $953. And then when I get to the subsequent month, I have a growth in my Twitch income, which is right here and carries down. And then I have growth upon the growth, so I'm now taking the 5% of this number, not that one. So I have more growth. I have still got my day job. My gross monthly total income increases. My expenses are staying the same. And so my savings is slightly more. And then I'm going to add this previous month to this month to get my total. And so as a result of that, my cash balance grows as time goes by. And then next up, I have a switch here. This is the switch that I call the full-time streaming test. And basically, based on the input data we had here, right here, we're not going to go full-time until we have 6 months worth of expenses in the bank, which is roughly 3,600 times 6. So all I'm doing is I'm saying here with an if statement, using an if this column is greater than or equal to 6 times my monthly expenses, then I'm going to put a 1 in this column here. So this is like a binary switch. And you'll see here when I go down, this exceeds 6 times the $3,600. And so now it puts a 1 in this column. And since that continues to be the case here, it still has a 1 in all these other columns. But what I'm ultimately trying to do is I'm trying to capture the first month that happens. And so now what I've done is I'm doing using the sum tool. I'm adding up all the zeros in the previous column, and this grows every time I get to another month. And so the first time that sum, the first time we hit a 1 in this other column, we'll see a 1 here. And then I'm using an if statement to say if and only if that occurs for the first time will this be a 1, so that I don't get 1s further down in this column. And then finally what I'm doing is I'm saying if this column has a 1 in it, I want to know what the month is that happened. So all it's doing is it's looking over here to the left, and it's seeing that that's month 23, and it reports it right here. And then I use a maximum function here to see what's the biggest number in that column, because they're all zeros except for that one number 23, just so that I can see that number separately up here at the top. And that is the month in which I can go full-time streaming. So all I did is I referenced this cell here back to that value on the other page. So the purpose being, as I change input data here, I can see what the new result is down here. So this will all be live real time as I'm working on this one page, and I won't have to flip back and forth between the different pages. Okay? All right, so there's something called a circular reference, and I won't get too far into that here, but because of the circular reference, I have another set of those same columns here to avoid that issue with the circular reference. And the second test I want to run is I want to determine, when does my money run out? Because at some point I go full-time streaming and I have only my Twitch income, and not my day job income. And if the Twitch income is too low, what will happen is I will start to run out of money, and you can see that right here. So by month 42, my cash balance in the bank is negative. Okay? And we have something else happening here as well. So we have the Twitch income with the growth, and you can see here that continues to grow. But at some point, we make a decision to go full-time, and we no longer have this gross monthly income from our day job. And that occurs in the previous example right here. It was month 29 based on the last value we put in there. You can see here now the gross monthly income for my day job is going away, whereby my total income is only $239, but my expenses continue to be the $32.90. So I'm cash flow negative, which means I'm losing money at a rate of about $3,000 per month. And because of that, I can only sustain a positive cash balance until I get down here, which is, I think it said month 42. Month 42, I'm out of money. Because even though my Twitch income continued to grow here, I eventually run out of cash because my Twitch income never exceeded what my monthly expenses were. So here again, important point to make is that you have to regulate your expenses the best you can, because that's almost equally important to keeping your income streams going, because that difference between income and expense results in whether or not you're going to have a savings or a loss in each individual month. All right, so what we're doing over here is we're using another test column, and we're basically saying the money's gone when this number in this column is less than or equal to 0. And if that's the case, it's going to put a 1 in this column. So you see that happens right here. And it will continue to happen here. So I'm trying to single out the first month that happened, like we did before using that sum tool and the if statement. And so only the first time that happens will it put a 1 here. And then this column knows to look for a 1, and when it finds it, it will look over in this other column to find the number 42, so that it can report here what month that occurs. And like we did before, we got the maximum function here to tell us, we make it easy to find that number 42 so that we can report it right back here on this page. Okay, so what this is telling me is 29 months after I start, I can go full-time because I have 8 months worth of expenses in my savings account. And 42 months from the start, not after I go full-time, but from the start, I will run out of money. In other words, I can sustain myself for about 13 months before I'm going to run out of money as a streamer. All right, so now we can continue to play with this spreadsheet because we have this big model off to the side that runs the results for us, and we can look at things like, what if I reduce my expenses by 50%? Now, this may be undoable, but you can see here we still achieve our goal of going full-time in month 29, and we never run out of money. And then similarly, we can change other fields here. We can change the number of months worth expenses before we make the switch, and now it takes longer to get there, but we never run out of money. Okay, so this is where you're going to spend some time looking at different scenarios, what if scenarios, and see what will get you to your goal, and not just to your goal of being a full-time streamer, but what will create a situation where it's sustainable. How can you plan ahead to make a sustainable model for this. Okay, so I realized I made one little minor mistake with this expense reduction here. Basically, I had accounted for it in the far right group of columns here, but I hadn't accounted for it over here. So I've made an adjustment to that to fix the model. But now you can see when I reduce my expenses by 50%, I get to my goal much faster, and I never run out of money. Okay, now be realistic with this. Put actual values in there and make sure that these are viable things. You can't just put the number in that gets you the number you want. You need to kind of do a reality check and make sure that these are realistic values that you're entering into the model. But as you play with these values, you can see real time what the results are. When can you go full time, and how many months from the start, not from the day you go full time, will you run out of money? Okay, so my suggestion here would be you try and model the situation to where you never run out of money, and that might be by saving more, and that might also be by looking at how you could reduce your expenses, because the worst possible scenario is you get to your goal of being a full-time streamer and you reach a point where you can't sustain and you have to go back to work in a day job. Okay, so if you want to get a copy of this spreadsheet, here's how you're going to do it. I need you to take a link to this YouTube video and tweet it out to your audience on Twitter. And when you tweet it, I want you to tag me at Cents, C-E-N-T-S, Max on Twitter. And when you do that, that will be your cue to me to direct message this spreadsheet to you via Twitter. So if you want to get this, that's all you got to do to make it happen. I hope this helps. That's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesday on Twitch. Until then, take care.